Chapter 1, The final defeat. The cold metallic walls of the Galactic Empire's prison chamber pressed in on Serena Mason from every side. The room was small, clinical, and sterile, a far cry from the vibrant, bustling corridors of the Starlight Voyager. The ship she had once commanded was nothing more than a distant memory now. Her crew, her comrades, they had been wiped out. Earth's defenses had been decimated. All that remained was her, the last captain standing, shackled and broken. Her wrists were bound with glowing energy restraints, each pulse sending jolts of pain through her body. They weren't meant to kill, rather, they were designed to weaken her, to break her will, to strip her of her humanity. Yet, as the searing pain shot through her veins, Serena's resolve only grew stronger. The Zathar, the supreme alien race that ruled the galaxy, had finally captured her after their relentless assault. Commander Elax, the Zathar officer in charge of her detention, walked toward her slowly, his movements deliberate, as if savoring the moment. He stood well over 7 feet tall, his reptilian face twisted into a sneer. His body was a mass of sleek, silver scales that reflected the harsh overhead lights, and his eyes gleamed with cruel amusement. He exuded an aura of supreme confidence, an aura that made Serena's stomach churn. "You fought well, human," Elax said with a deep, guttural voice, his cold blue eyes never leaving hers. "But you lost. Your crew is dead, and now you will pay the price. The Zathar are the true rulers of this galaxy. And Earth? Your world is nothing but a speck of dust in our empire. You're nothing." Serena's gaze remained fixed on his face, unwavering, even as his words cut through her like a blade. She had heard it all before, the arrogance of the Zathar. They believed themselves to be invincible, the ultimate beings in the universe. But what they didn't understand was the nature of humanity. The Zathar had crushed her people, but they hadn't crushed her. And they never would. "You're wrong," Serena whispered, her voice a quiet defiance. "Humanity may be small, but we're not weak. We may fall, but we always rise." Elax stepped forward, towering over her. He reached for a control panel next to her prison cell and activated it. Serena felt the restraints tighten, and she gasped in pain as electrical surges coursed through her body. The Zathar were merciless in their methods. But Serena didn't flinch. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. "Your defiance means nothing," Elax sneered. "You will break just like the rest of your species. Your Earth will be erased from existence. And I'll enjoy watching it happen." Serena's heart raced, but it wasn't from fear. It was from a deep, burning anger. She had failed her crew, failed her people. But she would never fail again. Not while she still had breath left in her lungs. "Do your worst, Elax," Serena said, her voice low and steady. "You'll regret underestimating humanity." Elax's eyes flashed with a mixture of amusement and disdain. "I've seen your kind crumble under pressure, human. Your kind is a footnote in the grand history of the galaxy. You'll be erased just like all the others." The control panel next to him beeped as he increased the power surging through the restraints. Serena's vision blurred, and she felt her body tremble under the force of the electric shock. But even as the pain intensified, a strange calmness washed over her. She had always known this moment might come. She had always known that in the end, she would stand alone. But she wasn't truly alone. Humanity was with her. Humanity was more than a race of beings. It was a force, an unseen strength, a will to survive, a power that had been waiting to awaken. And that power was about to unleash itself. Chapter 1, continued. The room seemed to vibrate as the energy from the restraints surged through Serena's body. Elax looked on, expecting her to scream, to beg for mercy like all the others who had dared to defy the Zathar. But Serena's eyes burned with something else, a fire that he couldn't understand, something ancient, something primal. Suddenly, there was a shift. A hum. A low vibration in the air, as if the very fabric of reality was bending and warping around her. It started in her chest, deep in her soul, and radiated outward. The golden energy surged within her like a dormant volcano coming to life. Elax's eyes widened in shock. What is this? Serena's body glowed with an otherworldly golden light, and the restraints that had once held her in place began to crackle. The power she had unlocked surged, and with a single, focused thought, she broke free. The energy from her body flooded the room, tearing apart the walls, the ceiling, and everything in its path. Zathar soldiers who had stood nearby were flung across the room as if they were mere toys. The Zathar's technology, so advanced and powerful, began to malfunction. The lights flickered, the air grew thick with the smell of burning circuits. Serena stood in the center of the chaos, her body now fully surrounded by golden energy. She wasn't just human anymore. She was something more. She was a force that could reshape the galaxy. Elax stumbled backward, his eyes locked onto Serena in disbelief. You can't be," but before he could finish his sentence, Serena's golden energy expanded outward with a force that shattered the entire prison chamber. She was no longer the prisoner. She was the force that would change the course of the galaxy forever. "I told you," Serena whispered as she sent a shockwave of energy across the room, sending Elax flying backward into the wall, his body crumpling like a rag doll. Humanity does not break. We rise. Chapter 1, Conclusion. Serena felt the surge of power coursing through her body, and for the first time, she understood what it meant to be free. She wasn't just a captain anymore. She wasn't just a survivor. She was humanity's awakening. The Zathar had ruled the galaxy with an iron fist for far too long. They had destroyed countless civilizations. But they had failed to understand one thing: humanity was different. Humanity's will to survive was unmatched. Serena's golden energy expanded outward, flooding the room, shaking the very foundation of the Zathar fortress. The walls began to crumble. The Zathar Empire was built on fear, on control. But now, Serena would show them what true power was. And it wasn't something they could ever comprehend. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2, The Awakening of Power. The silence that followed the destruction was almost deafening. Serena stood in the center of the crumbled prison chamber, her body still glowing with the golden energy that had erupted from within her. The Zathar's walls, once symbols of their invincibility, now lay in ruins, shattered by the raw force of her power. Around her, the wreckage of their technology hummed with the faint remnants of energy. The alien soldiers who had once surrounded her were now scattered like ragdolls, lying unconscious or knocked out by the force of the shockwave. But Serena wasn't looking at the destruction around her. Her eyes were focused outward, beyond the crumbled prison walls, beyond the fortress she had just broken through. She could feel the vastness of space surrounding her, and within her, a growing awareness. Her mind was racing, yet it was also clear, steady. The power she had unlocked was like nothing she had ever imagined. It wasn't just physical strength. It was as if she had tapped into something far older, far more profound. Her thoughts raced with possibilities. She had always known humanity had untapped potential, a survival instinct that went beyond just living. But now, she felt that instinct on a cosmic level. For a moment, everything in her life had seemed so small: Earth, the war, her crew, even the Zathar's empire. But now, in the silence that followed the destruction, Serena felt herself connected to something vast, something limitless. Her body began to glow brighter, her hands crackling with energy as the golden light pulsed from her chest. The universe was shifting. She closed her eyes, centering herself. The hum of her energy filled the air, and with a single thought, she raised her hands. The remains of the Zathar fortress, what was left of it, floated upwards, hovering above her, suspended in the air by her will. She wasn't just moving objects with her mind. It was more than that. She could feel the forces around her, the gravity of the planet, the electromagnetic currents, the flow of energy from the stars above. She could feel everything. But the most powerful realization came next: she was no longer alone. There were billions of minds across the galaxy, thinking, feeling, struggling, and humanity was just one of those minds. She could sense the distance between them, feel their presence in the galaxy like ripples in a vast ocean. Her connection to the golden energy within her had expanded far beyond the chamber. The energy wasn't just hers, it was part of the universe itself. Chapter 2, continued, Serena, a voice crackled through the communicator in her ear, breaking her reverie. It was Marcus, her second-in-command, who had been leading the remnants of Earth's fleet after their last, failed stand against the Zathar. He had managed to escape the Empire's grip, but the cost had been enormous. "Do you read me?" Marcus' voice was hoarse, tinged with a mix of relief and concern. We saw what you did. The explosion, the energy. Are you all right? Can you hear me?" Serena took a deep breath. "I hear you, Marcus. I'm more than all right." She paused, testing her newfound strength. She could feel her body humming with energy, but the power didn't feel dangerous. It felt right, balanced, as if she were finally aligned with something greater than herself. "Are you sure?" Marcus asked. "The fleet has been scattered, Serena. The Zathar are regrouping. We're running out of time." "If they know you're alive, they know I'm alive," Serena interrupted, her voice low but strong. "But they don't understand what I've become." The words felt strange to her as they left her mouth, but there was no doubt in her heart. The Zathar were far more dangerous than they had ever let on, but they were no longer the most powerful force in the galaxy. Her power, humanity's will to survive, was now greater than anything they had ever faced. Serena reached out with her mind, stretching it across the stars. She could feel the distant rumble of battles still ongoing. Resistance forces, scattered across the galaxy, were struggling to regroup. But their spirit hadn't been broken. She could feel it in every corner of the galaxy, hope was spreading like wildfire. "Marcus, I need you to do something for me," she said. "Rally the fleet. Gather everyone you can. It's time for humanity to stop hiding and start fighting back." "Serena, you're not talking about, I'm talking about leading the charge," Serena said, her voice firm. "The Zathar might have the technology, but we have the power. I'm going to show them what it means to underestimate humanity." Chapter 2, continued, Serena's mind pulsed with new knowledge. She had always known Earth's fight was one of survival, but now she understood it was so much more. This wasn't just a fight for the future of Earth. It was a fight for the soul of the galaxy. The Zathar had built their empire on oppression, fear, and destruction. They had subjugated countless species, stripping them of their freedom and their futures. But humanity was different. Humans had always adapted, always found a way to survive, no matter the odds. But Serena realized that survival wasn't enough anymore. They had fought just to stay alive, but now it was time to fight for the future. The future of every living being who had ever been oppressed by the Zathar. Serena's golden energy rippled around her, almost in response to her thoughts. It was as if the universe itself was aligned with her purpose. A quiet, confident smile spread across her face. It was time to take the next step. She wasn't going to just take down the Zathar fleet. She was going to take down the entire empire. Chapter 2 Conclusion. As Serena prepared to leave the now-destroyed fortress behind, her hands were steady. She felt the ground beneath her, the pulse of the planet, the momentum of the universe. She could feel the Zathar fleet, still lingering in the outer orbit, unaware of the power they were about to face. For the first time since her capture, Serena felt unstoppable. She had the power to challenge the galaxy's most ruthless empire. But that power didn't just lie in the energy that coursed through her body. It lay in her will, in the human spirit that refused to bow down to anyone. The war wasn't over. It had only just begun. End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3, Unleashing the Fury. Serena's ship, the Phoenix, was already in motion before she had even fully processed the power she had just unleashed. Her hands hovered over the controls, and she barely needed to touch them. The ship seemed to respond to her presence, the system syncing with her newfound abilities as if it were a natural extension of herself. She had done the impossible. The Zathar had never imagined that humanity could harness such power. They had underestimated her, and now it was their turn to face the consequences. She could feel the energy crackling around her like static, and yet, it was calm, controlled. She wasn't just moving through space, she was shaping it, bending it to her will. Serena glanced out the viewport, staring at the vastness of space beyond. The Zathar fleet was still in orbit, a massive armada hovering over what was left of their empire's stronghold. For the first time, she wasn't afraid. She could feel the flow of energy around her, coursing through the ship, through her body. She was ready. Serena, Marcus's voice crackled through her earpiece, the resistance is mobilizing. We're ready to make our move. But we'll need you to guide us. You're the key to defeating them. Serena's lips curved into a smile. Her fingers danced across the controls. She didn't need Marcus to tell her what to do. She was the key. The Zathar Empire had been built on oppression, fear, and destruction, but they didn't realize that humans were different. Humanity was a species that refused to be broken. And now, with the power that coursed through her, Serena was about to prove that to the galaxy. She leaned back in her chair, her golden energy flickering in the room. The galaxy was about to witness something they had never seen before. Chapter 3, continued. Serena set her sights on the Zathar fleet. It was massive, a formation of ships that spanned across the stars. But it didn't intimidate her. She had already seen what they were capable of. Now, she would show them what she was capable of. With a single thought, the Phoenix surged forward, slicing through space with lightning speed. The ship's engines hummed beneath her feet, the power of her energy amplifying every system within it. Serena could feel the ship's pulse, as though it were alive, moving in perfect synchronization with her. The Zathar might have had technology, but they had no idea how to control the power of the human spirit. Serena's eyes narrowed as she focused on the enemy fleet ahead. It was time to make them realize their mistake. She raised her hand and, with a single gesture, the golden energy that surrounded her flared outward. The nearest Zathar ship exploded in an instant. The sheer force of the blast ripped it apart, the pieces scattering like dust in space. The shockwave continued, sending ripples across the battlefield. The Zathar soldiers aboard the ship had no chance to react. They were gone, obliterated by the power of Serena's energy. "She's here," one of the Zathar commanders said, his voice trembling. "Activate the defense systems." But it was already too late. Serena wasn't just a force of nature anymore, she was beyond them. The ship's defenses fired, but Serena could feel their energy before they even launched. With another flick of her wrist, she redirected their own missiles back at them, turning the Zathar's weapons into their own downfall. The remaining Zathar ships scattered, trying to regroup, but it was futile. They had no idea how to fight someone who wasn't just stronger but faster. They couldn't react in time. Serena watched as the last remnants of the Zathar fleet were dismantled. It was not a battle. It was a message. Chapter 3, continued. The rest of the galaxy watched in awe as Serena Mason, the last hope of humanity, led the charge against the Zathar Empire. News of the destruction spread like wildfire, transmitted across the stars. The Zathar, once the dominant force in the galaxy, were now the hunted. Resistance groups that had been fighting in isolation for years now had a symbol to rally behind. They weren't alone anymore. Serena had united them all, from the Petra Collective to the Mist Walkers, the Quantum Swimmers, and every race that had been oppressed by the Zathar. They all saw Serena as their leader now, their light in the dark. Serena sat in the captain's chair of the Phoenix, her hands steady, as she observed the destruction of the last Zathar stronghold. The enemy had been eliminated, their ships now floating lifelessly in space, and their military presence shattered. But the true victory lay in what was still to come. The energy that flowed through Serena wasn't just destructive, it was constructive. Humanity had never been the type to destroy for the sake of destruction. They were creators, builders, innovators. And now, Serena's power would bring that out of them. The galaxy was hers to reshape. Marcus, Serena said, her voice calm but determined, it's time to rebuild. We'll follow your lead, Marcus responded, his voice full of awe. The galaxy is yours now. Serena smiled faintly, her golden energy flickering as the Phoenix shot forward, heading toward the next step in their journey. Chapter 3, Conclusion. Serena stood at the viewport, looking out over the remains of the Zathar fleet. The silence in the aftermath was almost eerie. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for centuries was no more. The rest of the galaxy had been waiting for this moment, and now it had arrived. The question remained, what would they do now? Serena's thoughts turned inward. She could feel the weight of her newfound responsibility. It wasn't enough to defeat the Zathar. That was only the beginning. She had to lead the galaxy into a new era, one of peace, cooperation, and unity. Humanity has always had the potential to change the world, Serena muttered to herself, her hand resting on the ship's control panel. Now, it's time for us to change the galaxy. With a deep breath, she turned to face her crew. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for the future of every species that the Zathar oppressed. The galaxy will never be the same, and we'll make sure it's a future worth fighting for. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4, The War Begins. The destruction of the Zathar fleet was just the beginning. Serena Mason had shattered the chains of tyranny that had bound countless species to the Zathar's oppressive rule, but the galaxy was far from free. The Zathar had been the galaxy's dominant force for centuries, and though they were now broken, their influence was far-reaching. Serena knew the real battle had only begun. As the Phoenix drifted away from the wreckage of the Zathar warships, Serena stood in the command center, gazing out at the swirling expanse of space. The once calm void was now filled with the remnants of war, the debris of fallen fleets, the shattered remnants of empires. Her fingers hovered over the controls, the hum of the ship's engines vibrating beneath her. She could feel the galaxy's pulse, a living, breathing entity that had been forever altered by her actions. Serena, we've received word from the resistance groups across the galaxy, Marcus's voice broke through her thoughts. He was stationed at the control panel, looking at the data coming in from across their network. The Zathar might be defeated, but the Reclaimers are rising in their place. Serena turned slowly, the weight of those words sinking in. She had expected this. The fall of the Zathar Empire was a victory, but one that had left a power vacuum. The Reclaimers, a faction of former Zathar loyalists and military commanders, had been biding their time, waiting for a chance to reclaim their lost power. They weren't interested in freedom. They wanted control. What's their movement like? Serena asked, her voice calm but laced with urgency. She had known that taking down the Zathar wouldn't be enough. There would always be those who sought power for themselves. They've started organizing in the Outer Rim territories, Marcus replied, his fingers flying across the control panel. We're getting reports of their propaganda spreading fast. The Petra Collective, the Mistwalkers, and even the Quantum Swimmers are reporting attacks. They're trying to gather support for another war. Serena clenched her fists, the golden energy surging around her in response to her emotions. She had faced the Zathar, and now she had to face the Reclaimers, and this time, it wouldn't just be a fight for survival. This was about proving that humanity had a place in the galaxy, not just as survivors, but as leaders. We won't let them take this galaxy back, Serena muttered, her voice low but resolute. We'll take the fight to them. Chapter 4, continued, the Reclaimers were not an organized force. Yet. But they were growing, and their influence was spreading like wildfire across the galaxy. Serena knew they wouldn't stop until they had reclaimed what they lost when the Zathar fell. The Zathar's fall had left an opening, one that these power-hungry factions would rush to fill. Serena couldn't let that happen. As she prepared to lead her forces into battle, Serena reached out to the resistance groups scattered across the galaxy. Her message was simple: the Zathar are gone, but we must unite now. The Reclaimers will stop at nothing to rebuild the Empire. We cannot afford to be divided. Resistance fighters from all walks of life responded. Earth's fleet, the remnants of their people, rallied under Serena's banner, but it wasn't just humans who joined the cause. The Petra Collective, a silicon-based species once subjugated by the Zathar, sent their best warriors. The Mistwalkers, gas-like beings who had been forced into submission by the Zathar's rule, pledged their allegiance to Serena as well. The Quantum Swimmers, beings capable of existing across multiple dimensions, also joined in. Serena smiled as she looked at the holodisplay of the forces that were coming together. The galaxy was uniting, not under the banner of the Zathar, but under the flag of humanity's defiance. The Reclaimers didn't stand a chance. Prepare the fleet, Serena ordered, her voice sharp. It's time to remind the galaxy that humanity is not just a footnote in history. We are the future. Her crew, her allies, moved quickly to implement her orders. Marcus led the human fleet, while the leaders of the other species oversaw their own forces. Together, they formed a unified front, a resistance that had already begun to change the galaxy. But Serena knew that the Reclaimers wouldn't back down easily. They had the military might, the resources, and the motivation to push back against anyone who challenged their authority. But they didn't have the heart, the resilience that humanity had shown over the centuries. Chapter 4, continued, the next battle took place in the Outer Rim, near the fringes of Zathar-controlled space. The Reclaimers had set up a base on an asteroid field, using it as a staging ground for their operations. Serena's forces moved in quickly, using their speed and maneuverability to their advantage. We'll hit them where it hurts, Serena said, her voice cold with determination as the Phoenix led the charge. The fleet followed her lead, diving into the asteroid field, their ships weaving in and out of the debris, using the terrain as cover. The Reclaimer forces were waiting for them. But they weren't ready for the speed of the human fleet. As the first shots rang out, it became clear that the reclaimers had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt. Their ships, though powerful, were slow and poorly coordinated. The humans, by contrast, were agile, flexible, and quick to respond. Serena led the charge, her golden energy flaring as she directed the fleet with precision. Every move, every attack, was perfectly synchronized. She was no longer just a soldier, she was the heart of this war, the pulse that beat through every ship in the fleet. Her energy was now a beacon of strength, an unyielding force that was driving humanity forward. The reclaimers fought valiantly, but it wasn't enough. Their ships were destroyed one by one. Serena moved like lightning, taking down enemy ship after enemy ship with ease. The Phoenix tore through the asteroid field, its weapons cutting through the enemy's defenses like a hot knife through butter. Serena could feel their desperation. She could feel their fear. But she didn't stop. She didn't show mercy. The Zathar had destroyed her world. They had destroyed her people. She wasn't going to let anyone else suffer that fate. When the battle finally ended, the reclaimers were routed. Their ships lay scattered across the asteroid field, their forces shattered. But Serena knew this was only a small victory. The reclaimers would return. They always did. But for now, humanity had proven their strength. Chapter 4, Conclusion. Serena stood in the command center of the Phoenix, looking out at the battlefield. The aftermath of the battle was chaotic, but there was a sense of victory in the air. Humanity had struck a blow against the reclaimers. But she knew they would come back. They always did. The war was far from over, but Serena felt something she hadn't felt before, hope. It wasn't just the power of her golden energy that had won the battle. It was humanity's unwavering spirit. They had fought together, humans, mistwalkers, Petra, quantum swimmers, all united under one banner, freedom. "We've won this round," Serena said softly, turning to face her crew. "But the fight for the galaxy is just beginning. We will not stop until the Zathar's legacy is erased forever." End of Chapter 4. Chapter 5, The Ultimate Victory. The aftermath of the Reclaimers' defeat had left the galaxy in a tense, uneasy calm. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Serena Mason stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, staring out into the cold void of space, a quiet storm brewing in her mind. There was no turning back now. The Zathar Empire had fallen, and the Reclaimers had been crushed, but the galaxy was still in chaos. It was now up to humanity and their newfound allies to rebuild what had been destroyed. The Phoenix drifted through space, a symbol of resistance, its golden light flickering as the energy around Serena pulsed with power. She could feel the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. This was no longer just about survival. It was about building a future where the galaxy would never again fall under the control of any tyrant, alien or otherwise. "Commander Mason," a voice called out from behind her. It was Marcus, her second in command. His footsteps echoed in the quiet of the ship's bridge as he approached. "The fleet has returned to the outer rim. The resistance groups are awaiting your orders." Serena turned to him, her expression unwavering. "What's the status on the Reclaimers?" Marcus paused, his face clouded with concern. "They've scattered. Some are rallying on a nearby moon, while others have retreated into the deeper sectors. We'll need to hunt them down, but it's clear they're regrouping. They won't go quietly." Serena's gaze hardened. "Then we'll make sure they know the fight is far from over." Her golden energy flickered in response to her emotions, the power in her veins surging as if it recognized the gravity of the situation. She wasn't just leading a military campaign. This was a galaxy-wide revolution, one that would shape the future of all living beings who had suffered under the weight of oppression. "We've won battles," she continued, her voice steady but filled with authority, "but this war won't be won by force alone. We need to unite the galaxy. Every race that has suffered under the Zathar's control must have a voice in this new era." Chapter 5, continued, Serena's mind raced as she thought about the future. The Zathar had been defeated, yes, but there were still pockets of resistance scattered throughout the galaxy. The Reclaimers, though fractured, were still a force to be reckoned with. She knew the battle for freedom would not end with a single victory. But this victory, the one that had united the galaxy in the first place, was the one that would inspire change. "Marcus," Serena said, turning to her second-in-command, "send the message. Humanity is not here to dominate. We are here to rebuild, to lead by example, and to fight for a future of peace and cooperation." "I'll do it right away," Marcus replied, nodding with determination. Serena felt a sense of pride as she watched him leave. She had always known that humanity had the potential to be something more than the oppressed species the Zathar had made them out to be. Now, humanity was leading the charge, not just in battle, but in shaping the future. Chapter 5, continued, the Phoenix's comm system crackled to life as the signal was sent to the resistance fleet scattered across the galaxy. Serena watched as the holographic map of the galaxy appeared before her. Thousands of ships, each representing a different species, lit up across the star systems. The Petra Collective, the Mistwalkers, the Quantum Swimmers, and countless others were now a part of this new unified front. Serena had brought together species that had once been enemies, and now, they were allies. Humanity, once seen as weak and insignificant, was now the leader of a galactic alliance. Serena took a deep breath, her eyes fixed on the glowing points of light before her. She could feel the weight of their collective hope. This wasn't just about defeating the Reclaimers or the Zathar. It was about something far greater. It was about unity, about giving every species a chance at freedom and self-determination. "We've come a long way," she muttered under her breath. "But the road ahead is long, too." As she turned toward the viewport, Serena saw the stars flickering in the distance, a silent reminder of how much was at stake. This galaxy was on the brink of something great, something she had always known was possible but had never dared to hope for. "Peace. Serena, the Reclaimers are making their move," a voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Marcus again, his tone serious. "They're heading toward the galactic core. If they reach it, they'll have the resources to rebuild. We can't let that happen." Serena nodded, her resolve hardening once again. "Then let's make sure they don't get the chance." Chapter 5, continued, the fleet, now united under Serena's leadership, moved swiftly toward the galactic core, the heart of the Zathar Empire. It was a region rich with resources, one that the Reclaimers could use to rebuild their strength. Serena knew this would be the final battle. The one that would determine the future of the galaxy. As the fleet approached the core, Serena could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Her golden energy pulsed around her, a reminder of the power that had awakened inside her, the cosmic force that was now part of her. But it wasn't just the energy that made her powerful. It was the will of every living being who had joined this fight. Humanity, though small, had risen against all odds. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were leading. "We need to be prepared for anything," Serena said, her voice firm. "The Reclaimers won't go down without a fight. But we have something they'll never have, unity." The Reclaimers were no longer a single force. They were fractured, desperate, and lacking the strength they once had under the Zathar's rule. Their power was scattered, but they still had the weapons and the resources to make one last stand. Chapter 5, Conclusion. The final battle was upon them. Serena's fleet arrived at the galactic core, and the reclaimers were already positioned. The battle raged, the sounds of laser fire and explosions filling the void of space as the two forces collided. But this time, it was different. The reclaimers were slow to respond, disorganized. They had no heart left in their cause. Serena's golden energy flared as she led the charge. She wasn't just directing ships or coordinating tactics, she was leading the galaxy into a new era. With a wave of her hand, she sent shockwaves of energy through the reclaimers' ships, sending them into disarray. Their weapons turned against them as she used her mind to manipulate their technology, turning their own force back on them. And then, with one final burst of energy, the reclaimers were destroyed. Their fleet scattered, their forces broken. The Zathar Empire had finally been erased from the galaxy, and in its place stood a new order, one built on cooperation, hope, and the resilience of those who had fought to survive. Serena stood, breathing heavily, but her eyes were calm. She had done it. Humanity had done it. The galaxy was free. Victory is ours, Serena whispered. She had led them to freedom, and now, together, they would rebuild. End of Chapter 5. Story conclusion. In this expanded Chapter 5, the final battle culminates in a decisive victory for humanity and its allies. Serena's journey from captivity to cosmic power reaches its peak as she leads the galaxy into a new era of peace and unity. The Zathar Empire and its reclaimer remnants are wiped out, and Serena's leadership solidifies humanity's place as a powerful force in the galaxy. The galaxy is now free from tyranny, and Serena, with the powers she has unlocked, begins the journey of building a new galaxy, one based on cooperation, hope, and freedom for all species.